I want you to picture a scene with me. You're standing on a sidewalk somewhere in New York City.
Could be the Bronx, could be Brooklyn.
Exactly. And you're looking at a public school. You know the kind I'm talking about, that specific architecture.
Oh, yeah. The big red brick fortress, probably built in, what, the 1920s?
Totally. It looks sturdy, but it also looks tired.
It has that very institutional vibe. Heavy doors, maybe some wire mesh on the windows.
You go inside, and you get hit with that smell.
The school smell.
It's like floor wax, old paper, a hint of yesterday's cafeteria lunch.
Mm-hmm.
The radiators are clanking. The light is that buzzing fluorescent yellow.
It feels like a place that's kind of stuck in time.
But then, and this is really the image that kicks off our deep dive today, you walk down a hall, you open a random classroom door, and everything changes.
The whole atmosphere just shifts.
You're hit with this blast of intense purple and white light. It's humid. It smells like damp earth and like fresh basil.
And instead of desks, you're looking at a glowing, high-tech, futuristic farm.
It is such a jarring contrast.
You've basically stepped out of a 1920s building and into, I don't know, a 2050 agricultural lab.
That's the hook. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating case study. It's called Systemic Impacts of Sustainability Education.
It was just published this past October in the Journal of Environmental Education.
And it focuses on this one nonprofit, New York Sunworks.
And we should set the stakes here. This is not a story about, a cute little after-school gardening club.
No.
This is a massive intervention. We're talking about more than 350 New York City public schools that have installed these permanent hydroponic labs.
And the researchers, they're asking a much bigger question than just, do the plants grow?
A much bigger question.
You're asking, can a program like this do more than just teach kids biology? Can it actually change the school system itself, the local food supply?
Can it even change how the next generation, engages with democracy?
It's a really bold premise.
It is. They're arguing that a school garden can stop being this nice-to-have extra and actually become a driver for real systemic change.
Okay, so before we get into the how, let's talk about the who, because when I hear high-tech school lab, I'm immediately thinking elite private schools.
That's a totally fair assumption. Usually that's where this stuff ends up.
But that's not what's happening here.
No, New York Sunworks is completely flipping that narrative. They're reaching about 120,000 students every year.
Wow.
But here's the critical stat from the study. 75% of those students come from low-income households.
So this is happening right in the heart of the public school system.
Often in the most underserved communities. So it's equity work just as much as it is science work.
It's bringing this top-tier technology to the students who are often left with the oldest textbooks.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that tech, because the source material uses some pretty heavy terms: aeroponics, nutrient film technique.
Aquaponics. It sounds like a Mars mission.
It does. Can you break down what one of these labs actually looks like?
Sure. So most people get the basic idea of hydroponics growing plants in water. But in a crowded classroom, you need to be efficient. So one of the main systems they use is called the nutrient film technique, or NFT.
Which is definitely not a cryptocurrency.
No, definitely not. In this case, it means you have these long white channels, almost like gutters, and a very shallow stream of nutrient-packed water is constantly flowing past the bare roots of the plants.
So the roots are just kind of grazing on this stream of food.
Exactly. And it recirculates, so it uses a tiny fraction of the water of traditional farming. Then you have the aeroponic towers.
These are the vertical ones.
Right. The plant roots are just hanging in the air inside a column, and every few minutes they get misted with nutrients. That's why they grow so fast, tons of oxygen.
And then there's the one that the kids get really excited about.
The aquaponics. That's the fish.
The fish farm.
It's a perfect symbiotic loop. You have a tank with fish, maybe tilapia. They produce waste, which is ammonia.
Which is toxic in a normal tank.
Right. But here, that water gets pumped through a filter where bacteria convert the waste into nitrates.
Which is just pure plant food.
Pure fertilizer. The plants absorb it, which cleans the water, and then the clean water goes right back to the fish.
A perfect circle.
And this all matters because of the city's constraints, right? You don't have a big open field in Manhattan. The winter is long.
And a lot of the soil is contaminated with lead anyway.
These labs just bypass all of that. You get year-round safe food production inside the building.
Okay, so we got the hardware, but the study is really clear that the tech alone is just furniture.
Right. The real core of this is how it's used. New York Sunworks provides this whole K-12 curriculum over 400 lesson plans.
So it's not just go watch the fish.
No. It aligns with state science standards, but it shifts the whole focus to things like urban agriculture and climate resilience.
And that gets us to the core argument of the research, that this combination creates systemic impact in 3 specific areas.
They call them the 3 circles of impact: educational transformation, sustainability solutions, and civil society.
Okay, let's unpack that first one. Educational transformation. The paper uses this term, banking pedagogy.
Right, does that mean? They say this program moves schools away from it. So, banking pedagogy is a concept from Paulo Freire. It's basically a critique of old school teaching.
Okay.
The idea is the student's brain is an empty bank account. The teacher's job is to deposit facts. The student holds them, and on test day, they withdraw the facts onto the paper.
So the student is just a passive container for information.
Exactly. It's a one-way street. But a hydroponic lab forces a shift to project-based learning. You can't just memorize the answer when you're running a farm.
Because things go wrong. Nature is messy.
Constantly. Pumps break, pH levels get out of whack, you get pests. The student has to stop being a container and start being a detective.
I really like the part in the study about entry points.
Oh, this is huge for inclusivity.
It basically says that in a normal science class, if you aren't great at reading the textbook, you're kind of stuck.
Right. But in the lab, there are so many different ways to be smart. You might have a kid who struggles with reading, but they're a genius with the plumbing and the engineering.
Or another kid who gets hyper-focused on the water chemistry.
Or becomes the expert on pest management. It validates all these different types of intelligence.
There was one story in the research that I think just perfectly illustrates this. The story about the hibiscus.
Oh, the hibiscus story is fantastic.
So a teacher realized that just saying, "we're growing lettuce," wasn't really connecting with the students.
Right, so instead of just telling them what to grow, she had them act like market researchers.
They surveyed the school staff, janitors, cafeteria workers, everyone.
They asked, what do you actually want to eat? And through that, they found out a huge part of their school community had Mexican heritage.
And nobody's getting excited about another head of lettuce when they're thinking of home cooking.
Exactly. So the students pivoted. They used the lab to grow hibiscus and hot peppers. And the reason for the hibiscus was specifically to make Jamaica, which is this, traditional drink.
I love that. It totally reframes what science is for. It's not this cold, objective thing. They use science to validate their own culture.
It creates a bridge. It tells a student your family history, your grandmother's recipes, they have a place in this lab. That is educational transformation.
And the teachers saw that students started taking ownership, which in a farm is literal.
It is. If you neglect the system, the plants die. If you succeed, you get to eat the food. The feedback loop is real and immediate.
Okay, so that's the classroom. But the second circle is sustainability solutions. This is where the school stops being an island.
Right. We usually think of schools as consumers. They use energy, they use resources. These labs turn them into producers.
And the numbers are actually kind of shocking. The study gives a conservative estimate of 35,000 pounds of produce a year.
35,000 pounds. That is a massive amount of fresh greens.
And it's not just for a science fair project. Where does it go?
It stays local. It goes to the school cafeteria, kids take it home to their families, and a lot of it gets donated to local food pantries.
So the school is actively fighting food insecurity in its own neighborhood.
The school becomes a hub for community health. It's solving a real problem.
There was one example of this that I thought was just brilliant and kind of funny. We have to talk about the rabbit.
The rabbit loop.
Yeah.
Yes, my favorite example of systems thinking in the whole paper.
So this is an elementary school green team.
You've got like 4th and 5th graders. They have a class pet rabbit, a cafeteria with food scraps, and the hydroponic lab.
3 separate things.
To an adult, maybe. Yeah. But the kids saw a system. They designed a closed loop. They took the cafeteria scraps.
Which normally go to a landfill.
And they fed them into a worm composting bin. The worms break down the scraps into fertilizer.
Okay.
They used that fertilizer for the plants in the lab, and they fed the greens they grew to the rabbit.
It's circular economics designed by 10-year-olds.
It sounds cute, but that is engineering. That is the exact kind of thinking you need to solve huge global problems.
And the high schoolers are making those global connections.
Yes, a teacher in Brooklyn mentioned that her students are looking at the water usage. They know hydroponics uses 90% less water than soil farming.
So they're not just thinking, I made a salad.
No, they're thinking, wait, there are droughts in California and desertification in Africa. This technology is a solution.
They start to see themselves as future civil engineers.
It moves them from being passive victims of climate change, which causes so much anxiety, to being active possessors of a solution. That is a powerful shift.
Agency really is the key word, which brings us to the third circle, civil society.
Mm-hmm.
This one kind of surprised me. I expect a garden to teach biology, maybe nutrition, but the study argues it teaches politics.
It does. This is the piece that often gets left out of STEM education. The program turns students into what the researchers call change agents.
So how do you get from growing basil to political activism?
Well, it starts with the curriculum, with analyzing food justice. Students start asking, why are there no grocery stores in my neighborhood, but there are 5 fast food places? That's a political question.
Okay.
But then they do something about it. They write letters to elected officials. They invite city council members to come visit their greenhouse.
That's a really interesting power dynamic.
It totally is. Because in that room, the student is the expert. The politician is the guest who needs to learn how the system works. It builds incredible confidence.
And I have to bring up the other rabbit story here, the Rabbit Rescue Partnership.
Another great moment of student agency.
So a class has extra produce.
Yeah.
The teacher asks, who should we donate this to?
And usually the teacher would just pick a local food pantry, the standard charity model.
Right. But here, the students debated it. They looked at the options, and they decided they wanted to partner with a local rabbit rescue shelter.
Of course they did. The cute factor always wins.
But the study's point is that this isn't just about cute bunnies. It's about democracy.
It is. It's resource allocation. The students identified a need they cared about, they debated it, they voted, and they directed their resources to that cause.
That is the fundamental mechanic of civil society. It shows them their voice can lead to real action.
Exactly. And there's another layer to this, about trust in government. Cynicism is so high among young people. They see government officials as, negative figures on social media, as one kid said. But the study mentioned a visit from the Commissioner for Agriculture.
And the students were surprised by him?
They were. They said things like, he's a real person. He listened to us. It humanized the whole system. It showed them that you can talk to these people and influence them.
It's rebuilding that lost trust, one greenhouse tour at a time.
I think so.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty glowing picture. Transformed education, feeding the neighborhood, building citizens. But we are the deep dive. We had to look at the constraints. And the authors are careful about this. They warn against uncritical extrapolation.
Which is academic speak for don't assume this is a magic wand that works everywhere.
Right. And the first constraint is just the gritty reality of these old school buildings.
The study lists some serious issues. Lead-contaminated water lines.
Which stops the whole project right there.
It does. Or insufficient electrical capacity. These grow lights draw a lot of power. You can't just plug a farm into 1930s wiring.
You'll blow the breakers for the whole building.
Exactly. So there are real infrastructure costs before you can even plant a seed.
But the constraint that really stood out to me wasn't the wiring, it was the people. The lead teacher problem.
This is the Achilles heel of so many educational innovations.
Yeah.
The success of these labs depends almost entirely on having a champion in the building.
A teacher who's willing to come in early to check the pH levels and manage all the chaos.
And if that teacher burns out or they transfer schools,
the lab can just die. The expensive equipment becomes a dusty storage rack.
Which means it needs systemic support. It can't just be one hero teacher. New York Sunworks tries to provide that with ongoing maintenance and training.
But you still need buy-in from the administration.
Absolutely. If a principal changes the schedule and cuts that teacher's prep time, the farm fails. Scaling tech is easy. Scaling human passion is much harder.
You can't mass-produce dedication.
No, you can't.
So let's bring this all together. We started with that glowing lab in the old brick school. We've seen how it can shift learning, turn a school into a food producer, and even act as a training ground for democracy.
It's a really powerful case study, but I think the most important thing is the final question the authors leave us with. It's about the very purpose of a school.
Yeah, this really stuck with me. We almost always frame the conversation around what schools need.
Right. It's always about deficits. Schools need money. They need repairs. They need volunteers. We see them as black holes that consume resources.
But this study just completely flips that script.
It asks, what can the school provide? If a school can become a farm and a political hub and a research center, what else could it be?
It challenges us to stop seeing schools as just, holding pens for kids or test prep centers.
Imagine if we treated them as civic power plants. What other problems could they solve? Could they generate energy? Could they be public health clinics? The infrastructure is there. The human potential is there.
That's the thought I want to leave everyone with. The next time you walk past that big brick school building in your neighborhood, don't just see a place for long division.
Ask what could be growing in there.
And who is growing into a leader in there. It's a vision of a school that feeds the city, in every sense of the word. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
It definitely gave me a lot to chew on. We'll catch you on the next one.